What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another Angle of Pursuit podcast, your fantasy football, sports betting, and NASCAR home here at fakepigskin.com. I am your host, Kyle Robert, and we are here to talk some Week 5 waiver wire. If you are enjoying what we're doing, make sure you mash that thumbs up. Make sure you hit the subscribe. It really does do a lot for us. And tell a friend if you want to share some information with your non-league mates. I totally get it. Let's jump in. Let's try and get through this and give you names that you need to be adding on the Week 5 waiver wire. And we'll start at running back, Brian. Austin Ekeler out 4 to 6 weeks, the hamstring injury plus a hyperextended knee. Somehow Joshua Kelley, who was already being involved, was already getting a ton of touches, is only rostered in 55% of Yahoo leagues. I think he is a must add this week. And, with all the injuries and obviously with Nick Chubb and, potential other options, I think Justin Jackson should be added as well.
Yeah, this Chargers backfield is one that for the beginning of this season, we kind of envisioned it being kind of a two-headed monster, just with knowing that Ekeler is more of the pass catching guy. They weren't going to give him a full workload. And now that he's gone, it's going to be the same system ran with Jackson and Joshua Kelley back there, especially with Justin Herbert at the helm currently.
Yep. And as we've seen with other backfields, the important options at running back need to be added before it becomes a problem. Tony Pollard's become involved, although I am a little dubious of that Cowboys backfield in general. Like, even Zeke, as good as he is, this is an offense that has evolved into a lot more passing. And, if you own CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott and some of the other names Dalton Schultz, who we're going to mention here in a second, throwing's a lot better. So, obviously I feel better. I would prioritize Madison over Pollard, but I think they both need to be owned.
Yeah, for sure. If we've learned anything about this 2020 season, is not only COVID very apparent, and it can come at the last second, but injuries are just coming at an increased rate. And so having that handcuff for maybe even this year, I would advocate for signing the handcuffs of your own guys just for this season. But it's extremely important for guys that are in run heavy offenses. And real quick to hit on the Cowboys running game, I think it's been a lot of game script dependency. Basically, they haven't been able to get the ground game moving because they've been their defense has been forcing them into these huge holes early. They're not doing their own favors on offense by having so many turnovers. Yep. And so I think there will be weeks, maybe this week is the week against the Giants, that they play lesser opponents where they have a lead and we don't see Dak air it out 40 plus times.
Yeah, and also along the offensive line, they've had issues with injuries and whatnot, so that's not ideal either. A big part of what made them so impressive on the ground game was that offensive line, and we're seeing those injuries pop their ugly heads. Keyshawn Vaughn finally happened. It looks like LaShawn McCoy, potentially Leonard Fournette may miss time. Obviously, our boy Rojo went off, but Keyshawn Vaughn got involved, got in the passing game, found the end zone. Another guy that if you have room at the back end of your roster, people should be adding.
Yes, Keyshawn Vaughn for me is a must for anybody who is really hurting at running back this week, because they're facing a Bears team who was just able to limit Jonathan Taylor, Jordan Wilkins, and Nyheim Hines to right around 100 yards rushing this week when they ran the ball over 30. They had over 30 attempts, and they limited them to just over 100 yards. So I think Tampa is going to find it a little more difficult getting the ground game moving this week. And I think we do see Tampa kind of lean on that short passing game a little bit more. And if McCoy, especially McCoy, if he were to miss the game, I think you see Keyshawn Vaughn snaps go up into the 30, 35 range. And that I think he sees maybe close to 8 to 10 touches. And we saw it this week. Brady was unafraid to target him in the red zone. And for an offense that is rolling right now, you got to have pieces.
Yep. Chase Edmunds, another running back that is in that Alexander Madison, Tony Pollard camp. It looks like Kenyon Drake supposedly just got the wind knocked out of him, but did actually leave the game. So I might prioritize him over Pollard and Madison just because, especially if you need somebody now, although much like Dallas, they've had issues, getting the ground game established in general. And you won't feel super optimistic, even if Edmunds is quote unquote the guy.
Yeah, that situation is really interesting because they're one of the top 10 teams in the NFL in terms of rushing attempts, but I think that has a lot to do with Kyler Murray taking off a lot. And Kenyon Drake just does not look good. I mean, we talked about this preseason that he was probably the most overvalued player in fantasy drafts going into this season because of what he was able to do. And it looks like Chase Edmonds is the preferred guy there, especially in passing situations, as he's seen. I was reading on Twitter today, like 17 targets to Drake's 5 this season. And he just looks like the more explosive guy. So I think there's a non-zero chance that we see Chase Edmonds and Kenyon Drake see almost a 50-50 timeshare going forward, even if Drake's healthy.
Yep. Dearness Johnson is another name just to kind of keep filed away with the Browns losing Nick Chubb for 6 weeks.
They're not going to play the Cowboys every week, though.
Right. Well, that's also true. But this is still a team that leans heavily on the ground. Kareem Hunt came into the game potentially with the potential of missing it, so he's not exactly the picture of health either. So this is a team that wants to run the ball, and we've seen enough out of this offense, I think, through the first month that we think there will be value. That even if you don't love him, I mean, we've seen guys like Mike Davis pop up. We've seen other names that and with all the injuries to all the studs, they're going to have to play somebody. So it's just a name to keep filed away. So at running back, Josh Kelley is the number one option for me. Beyond there, Keyshawn Vaughn, if you need somebody this week. If you're looking for more of a long-term option, Madison is definitely my favorite of the group. What say you, like your top 2 or 3 options at the position?
Yeah, I'm definitely going Josh Kelley as priority number 1 if he's available, just knowing the way that they want to run that offense with a rookie quarterback. And then if I'm in a full PPR league, I think Keyshawn Vaughn is number 2, especially with this week's matchup against the Bears. And then, like you said, I love Alexander Madison because we saw Dalvin Cook get banged up this week, and there was a scare there that he would become El Numero Trace for running backs going down this weekend. And if that were the case, Alexander Madison is immediately a top 10 running back.
Yep, and he's already a guy getting a few handoffs, so if you have to play him in a pinch, you can. Plus, Dalvin's looked amazing with that offensive line, so if they can get Madison in there, I think it would be all systems go. Let's shift focus. Let's talk wide receivers. Not as great of options this week. We did find a few names that are widely available. Obviously, we mentioned Justin Jefferson a couple times. If he's still floating around on your waiver wire, he's a guy you need to go out and sign. T. Higgins, they're still only rostered in 33% of leagues. I'm not sure what's going on.
I don't get that.
16 targets in the last 2 weeks, 117 yards, 2 touchdowns. Probably the second option in this Bengals passing attack that is led by Joe Burrow that looks really good. And even though Joe Mixon still finally got off the ground and had a big week, Burrow was really impressive, throwing the ball over the yard. And Higgins is a guy that if you're looking for a long-term option makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, I think I saw Joe Burrow's the first quarterback in the history of the NFL to open his career with 4 straight 300-yard passing games. So even if Joe Mixon is going off like he did this weekend, this offense is still predicated on the passing game. And the number 2 option there is T. Higgins, as old man AJ Green just does. Him and Burrow just cannot get on the same page. I don't think it's going to happen. They've turned the page into the youngsters, and T. Higgins, number 2 guy there, he has to be on your roster.
Yep. Scotty Miller is becoming a part of this offense, especially in the games Chris Godwin doesn't play. He had 3 catches for 83 yards against Denver, 5 for 83 and a touchdown against the Chargers. If there's a good likelihood that Chris Godwin is out again this week with with Tampa playing on Thursday night. Scott, if you need a receiver this week, Scotty Miller would be my number 1 pickup.
Yeah, I like Scotty Miller from a pure opportunity standpoint because Tom Brady has always shown a love for those quick little white dudes for some reason because they find the open space.
Yep.
I think if I'm in a pinch and I need a guy for a PPR league, it's definitely Scotty Miller. But another name in that offense that I'm extremely interested in right now is also Justin Watson, as he led the team in wide receiver snaps this past weekend, as they seem to kind of think he's a good blocker. He saw 4 catches for 40 yards, so he's getting the deeper targets down the field as Tampa is looking to, they're looking to go down the field and pour one out for the homie. with OJ Howard going down, like I think you see a little bit more wide receiver, like 3 wide receiver sets and less of the 2 tight end sets. Because Cameron Brate, he is just not a guy that's going to go down the field. Yeah, he caught a touchdown, but for 1 yard. Like we're not going to see them.
That's Cameron Brate in a nutshell. This game did get lopsided early with the Chargers getting up. I'm going to be curious to see how involved the other pass catchers. Mike Evans is still out there being a stud, so lots to like with this Tampa offense. And even though Tom Brady will make some questionable throws, including a pick 6 this week, he can still get it down the field when he needs to and make some great throws and looks really good.
On his way to becoming a top 3 fantasy quarterback this year. If he continues at this rate.
He's looking good, and even with options going down, he's got other pieces stepping up. There's 2 other options at receiver. Cole Beasley is only rostered in 25% of leagues. He has 24 targets through 4 weeks, 5 for 70, 6 for 100, 3 for 32, and a touchdown the last 3 weeks. Josh Allen is throwing the ball all over the yard, even with Stephon Diggs. John Brown has been in and out of the lineup. Beasley is another guy kind of in that Scotty Miller mold that if you need a PPR body, you're not going to feel great about it, but he's producing at a nice level, getting plenty of volume. And in this offense that wants to throw it as much as they are, it makes sense. And then even Gabriel Davis, who's the rookie out of UCF, is somebody that I'm targeting in deeper leagues. Basically 2% rostered in Yahoo. One catch, but a touchdown against Miami, 4 for 81 against the Rams. That was the John Brown-less game. John Brown comes back this week, 1 catch, 26 yards, a touchdown. Obviously, you can't expect him to get a touchdown in every game, but is somebody that I'm at least stashing. And then in the event John Brown misses time, he becomes the guy that I'm throwing in my lineups, and I think becomes a lot more involved.
Yeah, I think people are still kind of living on the idea that the Bills are a run-first team, and that's no longer the case there. They haven't really been successful in creating yards at first contact there at the line of scrimmage, so this team has reverted to a passing game where we've seen Josh Allen turn into a legit MVP candidate. Props to you, my friend.
Yes, sir.
And Cole Beasley is kind of the forgotten man there, as everybody's going to run and get the hot name Gabriel Davis or Little John Brown. As you see, Stephon Diggs prove that he is a number 1 wide receiver, with Allen showing the propensity to just throw it up to him finally. Somebody's doing that. And Cole Beasley, he's that little underneath target who he showed it in Dallas. He's an extremely valuable PPR option. And for a team that's throwing the ball 60% of the time, he has to be rostered in more leagues.
Yeah, and he's giving you a safe floor. Obviously, you're not expecting 180 yards and 3 touchdowns, but he will give you that reliability each and every week to complement some of those boom bust type wide receivers. Quarterback is actually very interesting this week. There's 3 names we want to hit on. Justin Herbert is a legit option, must be added, averaging 310 yards per game, a touchdown or more in that span. Had obviously 3 touchdowns this weekend. Plus, he has that rushing floor. He's had 3 or more attempts with 14 yards. And in the coming weeks, he have New Orleans, the Jets, Miami, Jacksonville, and the Raiders. So offenses that are going to do enough to make them throw, defenses that are going to be able to be thrown on. And with Austin Ekeler missing time, there's probably going to be a little more dumped on his shoulders. Beautiful deep balls. Obviously, Keenan Allen is looking like a stud and a tremendous value. Justin Herbert definitely should be added. And props to you, Teddy Bridgewater is on, as before the Monday night games, the QB3 this week. DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, Curtis Samuel, Mike Davis getting involved, has a week 5 matchup versus Atlanta. I think both of these guys make a ton of sense as immediate adds.
Yeah, I like Justin Herbert a little bit more because he seems more willing to be able to throw the ball down the field, where Teddy Bridgewater has just been the model of consistency this year with hitting the open guys. Like, he's not taking chances. He's not throwing in the tight windows. He's just throwing it to the open receivers. And just like we expected with that Joe Brady offense, it was going to be a lot of 3-step drops and release the ball to your open guy and allow them to make the plays. Yep. And that's what we're seeing. That's why Robbie Anderson has seen this resurgence.
He's turning into a stud.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I think both of these guys are quarterback streaming options, and they offer pretty safe floors going forward as long as we don't see Tyrod take back over the job, as Anthony Lynn has said. These are both guys that I'd be willing to add in favor of Carson Wentz or the 49ers situation. Like both of these guys have hires for the
even Daniel Jones. Like there's been some ugly quarterback play. And then we were talking before the show, Tua is actually an interesting name that if you have an extra bench spot and you're looking for a guy who could come in and potentially be like a league winning quarterback as the second half of the season rolls along, he makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, I mean, if you need help and you're, like we said with the running backs, the injuries are huge this year. If you're looking for a potential guy as a backup, go add Tua just in case, because he'll offer a rushing upside better than what Fitzmagic is already providing.
Yep. A couple options at tight end. Dalton Schultz is a legit option in this Cowboys offense. Available in about a half of Yahoo leagues. At 24 targets through 3 weeks. 17 catches, 208 yards, 2 touchdowns. A guy
it's supposed to be Blake Jarvis.
Yeah, a guy. I was a big Dalton Schultz guy coming out, and thought he might be an interesting option. Jarwin stole that role, but Schultz is getting his opportunities and taking full advantage of it.
Yeah, if he's available, you have to add him. I added him in a league where I had Dallas Goedert go down, and I have Darren Waller. And there's probably going to be weeks where I'd probably rather play Dalton Schultz, just knowing the kind of offense that this is. As good as Darren Waller is, I just know that the Cowboys' scoring opportunities are going to be more than what the Raiders are. So, yeah, he is a top 12 tight end for the rest of the season for me.
Yep. And it looks like Seattle's found a tight end in Greg Olsen. Will Dissly isn't happening. Jacob Hollister, we'll see. Olsen's a guy you should be adding. And if you're very desperate, Richard Rodgers is involved in this Eagles passing attack. As long as Dallas Goedert is out. On Sunday night, Zach Ertz got a lot of attention. Richard Rodgers was a big benefactor of that. At this point of the season, we're going to be digging deep. Obviously, if you can find better options, go that way. But if people in your league are rostering a couple options, and you're scraping the barrel, those are 2 other names that if you need a body can be fill-ins this week.
Yeah, that's like again. I'm going to say it again. Injuries are going to occur more than we've seen before, and the possibility of COVID. So you want to make sure you're ahead of the game with having, a backup at a position. I know we don't advocate for that normally, but this year is an anomaly. Yeah.
Normally we'll see. We like to get the other team's backups, right? So we can get all that upside. But this year, I think, there's with all between the COVID and everything else, you're gonna need that depth. So make sure you're stashing that, churning out those names that are underperforming, the Preston Williams of the world, the T.Y. Hiltons of the world. We're going to be talking here shortly about some panic meter on 5 players, so make sure you check that out. Make sure you join us on Thursday for our preview of Week 5, as well as Sunday morning help getting you set with your start to sit decisions, any bets you're trying to make before the games get kicked, all the latest injury news, all that stuff. So make sure you subscribe to the show, rate a review if you're listening on iTunes or Stitcher or wherever, and Brian and I will talk to you next time.